in a few seconds. Perfect.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our December PTA meeting. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I think as last month has shown, and this month we were getting some great numbers as far as people turning into our PTA meetings. So I think regardless if we go back in person or not, I think having this Zoom Google Meet component is a good thing and enables other families to be able to join when they're crazy busy as all of us are. So I think this is a good sign, and I want to welcome everybody. Excuse me. So to get started, I would like to talk about last month's minutes. I sent that out on Facebook last night. Has everybody had a chance to review and look at those? All right, thumbs up. Any questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Barrett, I want to thank you for videotaping last meeting. That was very easy to go back and refresh my memory for the minutes, so that worked out wonderful. So with that being said, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
Motion to accept.
Okay, Kevin has made a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Amy is second. Any questions, comments, concerns? Nothing from the floor. Checking our chat area. Nothing in the chat area. Okay. Minutes are approved and will be entered into record at 7:06. Moving along. So I want to vote on the bylaws tonight. Again, we've had a couple months to look at those. Kevin, I made those recommendations that you asked for 2 months ago, and I can go ahead and read that section again just to refresh everybody's memory. Kevin had asked that there be a bullet put into there about monies and expenditures. So what I entered into the bylaws, if I could find that, under general membership meetings, Article 10, Section 5, I posted, only during regular meetings is when expenditures from the budget can be brought up for a vote by the E-Board, Executive Board, and general membership members, except for standing annual fees, such as, but not limited to, our annual Secretary of State dues, our PTA insurance, the BJ's membership, the town bingo license fee, and bank account monthly fees. Does anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns about Section 5, Article 10 that was asked to be put into the bylaws?
The only question I would have, and I think that on a yearly basis, we might want to look at that article just to see if there's anything that needs to be changed. So like if there's an additional yearly fee that comes up that we want to add to that article, or something that we don't pay anymore that we want to take out. That would really be my only suggestion. But otherwise, I think it was a really good suggestion from Kevin to put those in there and word it the way that it is.
Okay. And that's also why I put the line in there, except for standing annual fees such as, but not limited to.
Excellent. Excellent.
So, because I knew there's going to be stuff that would pop up and pop out. So with that being added, are there any questions, comments, or concerns about this draft OCRS PTA bylaws before we have a vote on that? And according to state PTA, this is not something that we have to do every year, but we haven't been delinquent, but the previous, going back a couple years, the previous PTA, before Paul was our principal, never got their bylaws actually approved. So we've been running off of, Amy, refresh my memory, I think bylaws that are at least 4, maybe 5 years old at this point. You're still muted, Amy. Okay. All right. So with that being said, would anybody like to make a motion to accept these bylaws?
They were 12 years old, now that I am muted.
12 years old. Thank you.
I was sending you an email and I couldn't get out.
And motion to accept.
Kevin has made a motion to accept. Is there a second?
I'll second if I can.
Yes, you can second as the treasurer. All right.
When I am here.
Before I approve, any comments, questions, concerns, problems? Only once, twice. All right. Our OCRS PTA bylaws have been approved. And Miss Amy Capisi, thank you again to your husband as the lawyer looking those over. I greatly appreciate that. So please tell him thank you for us.
No problem.
All right, moving along. We are doing very good tonight. Amy Ricketson, if you would like to present as treasurer, please.
So we have no outstanding money out. Everything has been deposited as of yet. I'm still waiting for us to close out our fundraiser so we can deposit the money that we earned from them. However, it just takes a little while with snail mail and COVID. So we have no outstanding bills at this time. Our bank account is $10,339.72. And we did do the audit. I was missing one slip, and it was just to show a cash box withdrawal. And I will forward that to the PTA. So just in case anyone has a question as to what happens with that, typically we would meet in person and I would bring all of the receipts and the months, and people would choose 3 months anonymously, and they would go through the folders to make sure all of my receipts match up with the money and balance out the accounts. And then you would sign off on it. This year, because of COVID, the people that volunteered at the last meeting, we picked out of a hat which months we were going to audit. Those months were delivered to people that were auditing them, and the audit was returned to me to ensure that we were still meeting compliance, and someone looked at the books to make sure that I was in fact balanced, which is super important to me. So it did come back as balanced, and they were varying months. So especially with COVID, from March until May, we didn't really have a lot of expenditures. So I was actually happy with the random numbers that were chosen because I had numbered them before John had chosen numbers. So we ended up auditing August, which was busy. No, September, April, and November. So those were pretty busy months. April because of teacher appreciation that we spent some money on. So we had receipts to show for there. And then back to school for September. And then November is always crazy busy, especially with the bazaar. So those are heavy expenditure months. So for my purposes, I'm excited that those were the months that were chosen just because that's where the balancing gets a little bit hairy. I also did just forward you, John, the proposed potential budget. Even though we didn't advertise it today, I did write the budget just because I feel like we need to move forward. And we can vote on it next meeting if we need to. But I feel as though that the budget, because we need to be making some decisions for finances and spending of money, although I did keep the budget very, very limited in spending, depending on what we do earn in our fundraisers, so that we can just be fiscally responsible for, need-based and have the money still available. I would still like to be able to keep a good balance in the account just because we aren't able to do as many fundraisers. I think it's important that we save that. But again, that's up to everybody else. So I did put forward, I don't know if you want to show the budget, John, if you can share that screen.
Give me 1 second. You emailed it to which account? I'm sorry.
The J. Poirot one.
Okay, it hasn't come through yet. Hold on. I still don't have it. I'm sorry.
All right, I just resent it.
Okay.
So I didn't put that we were spending any money on field trips this year. If we do get back to school, if Smithfield does get back to school and we are able to do field trips, then certainly we can meet to discuss and reopen the budget as where it is. But that saves a lot of money. I did also, unfortunately for the teachers, remove the $50 stipend that we typically give the teachers this year. I know that there has been a directive by the superintendent to reduce the amount of things in the building. However, I also think it's important that we do help fund appropriate educational things as well, but I did remove that from the budget this year just to be careful and cautious as we move forward with what we're purchasing.
Amy, I have it. I can put it up real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
While John is doing that, one of the things too, in regards to that $50 stipend piece that we can think about as the year goes forward, if we end up being in distance learning for an extended period of time and there are things that are necessary, so some materials that kids are missing, we can look at maybe reallocating those funds to something like that.
And so that's part of the reason why I didn't put anything in there, because that can also come out of general funds if we vote on it at a meeting, where we can purchase some needs that students in the building need. So whatever works best. So with our program that we pay for every year, this is the budget, and it compares the budget from this year to last year, which I like, so you can see where your money's being spent. So if you look in the most right-hand file corner where the boxes are, those are the active, that's the amount of money. So right now we're in the income where we're going to take in some money. So the bazaar I had potentially put in for $2,000 that we'll potentially do it if we can end up holding the bazaar in the spring outside. So I'm still hoping that we can potentially hold some type of bazaar, whether it be outside in a fresh air space. So hoping that we can get where we need to get with that.
Can everybody see the screen okay? Can we make it bigger?
I mean, I think it's fine. It's small, but I think it will. And we can email it out to the general membership as well once we get there, and they can look at it as well.
Okay.
Just for full disclosure. Box tops, I put in $100 just because this year, especially after talking with Rose, we really haven't had that much money returned like we have in the past. The fall fundraiser was the fundraiser that is closed out, and I put in that we would take in 500, which we have surpassed by a lot potentially at this point. Fifth grade is an income.
We actually, that fall fundraiser that Dave and I ran, we're going to talk about that, but we brought in about $1,500.
Awesome. So I compared it to last budget. If you look at last budget's number, it was $1,208, 1868, and that's when we ran three fundraisers: the cookie dough, the pie sales, and something else. So with one fundraiser, we beat that already. So that's awesome. Fifth grade, I have a potential of $1,000 that we'll be taking in, but we'll balancing that budget out to zero, spending it all on the kids. The holiday store, I have $200, and that's for us spending, because sometimes we do give to some families that are in need at that time. But we also take in some money from the holiday store, although this year what we ended up doing was the online store. So the $200 we won't take that in, but so I'll have to change that. A spring fundraiser, potentially running $500 to take that in as an income. And then if you move down a little bit for our expenses, family events, I left in back to school because I didn't know if you were going to hold something later on, Mr. Barrett, once we got back. And I didn't take anything out for family dance, parents' night out, because I didn't know where we stood, and I didn't want to start making huge decisions without having a committee meeting to decide it. Oh, the buses shouldn't be in there, but Mr. Barrett, do you feel as though we should be zeroing that out?
I think probably right now, because we could always, if we needed to, transfer it back. But I think the way that things are trending now, it's probably safer to zero it out.
Okay. I did keep in there parent teacher conference night for the teachers.
Okay.
where we support them with some type of dinner or something. Just because I do think that we are, I mean, I am a teacher, so I guess it's a biased conversation, but asking teachers to do an awful lot as well as parents. So I don't want to take everything away from the teachers just because I think they're important as well.
And I think that's one of the things we were going to discuss tonight too, was some sort of appreciation for not just the teachers, but custodial staff, paraprofessionals, Mrs. Diaz. So I think that's great. I appreciate that you left that in.
I think that's okay. I did leave that in. I budgeted $450 for that because I looked at last year's receipt for where we had gone, and we spent about $375. So I thought it'd be important that we would probably spend somewhere around that same amount of money.
And I know that this year it'll be a little trickier, and we can talk more about it too, because anything, if we were going to do something like a meal, everything would have to be boxed.
Right.
We can't do like we've done in the past. So that may affect the cost. I don't know.
So I was trying to figure how many people that we had last year for staffing. So I was trying to figure out, $15 a person because it's individually wrapped. And
That
to
sounds
see,
about right.
you think that's,
I think that's good. A good price,
Okay.
$15 per person.
I did bring up the receipt from the place that we had gone to last year, and there was only about 20 orders that were placed for 20. So I'm not sure who will be attending or doing online conferences, or how you guys are handling that.
Well, I think that, and again, I don't want to jump the gun on discussing this, but I think so for parent-teacher conferences, teachers do not necessarily need to be in the building. So
Okay.
teachers can choose whether they're more comfortable doing it from their home, if they have a confidential space to do it at home. Some teachers will be in the building, I'll be in the building, but we were thinking of just picking maybe another day where we know everyone's going to be in the building. So
Well, I
maybe
was
that
actually going to suggest that maybe we do it on the Friday, the 18th,
That's what I was thinking as well.
because I think it might be a little chaotic on that day.
Nope, definitely not. We'll talk more about that too in the
Okay.
principal's report about the school committee meeting last night. And obviously there are lots of questions that people have.
So I did zero out all the family events, and then we can go back, school store included, the
Right.
buses as well, and the destination for field trips. I did keep in teacher appreciation and then the teacher money for the food on whatever day we decide.
Terrific. I think one of the interesting things, and I don't know how much communication there is between the different PTAs and PTOs in the district, but I do know one school was doing like their holiday shop in person, and I'm not sure how they're doing that. So
That was my question to you, because I thought that was not allowed.
that is not allowed. We're not supposed to be having people inside the building that are not part of the regular pods. So I'm thinking that some of these things, like once we have a better handle towards the spring about what's happening, maybe what we can do too is get a little more clarity from central office about, specifically what we can do and what we should avoid. And I know right now it's probably tricky because things are changing so quickly, but I did see that posted online and that seemed a little odd to me.
And that same school also had a bake sale during election day and made quite a bit of money.
Got it.
So, while we're all trying to have hard times, and it's a little frustrating when they're completely breaking all advisement and we are trying to think out of the box. And I feel as though that we have more of a needier population, where we could utilize this for teaching and learning for our students and our teachers than necessarily what they have going on.
So that might be something that after the holiday break, that maybe as a board and myself, we can talk about, like maybe some specific questions about guidelines and what we can look at towards the spring. That way we can really plan without having to worry about, are we doing something we shouldn't be doing? Are we assuming that, are we assuming we shouldn't be doing this, but it's okay? Can we do it within certain parameters?
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I certainly don't want to take opportunities away from any of our students and families, because I think that's really just crucially important during any time, never mind a time where many of us are struggling with opportunities just in general. And then second, you're right. Just, I think our school has more needs in more ways than other schools necessarily.
I agree.
I'm glad we're all on the same thinking.
But I do think I would like to say too, and I appreciate this from the PTA, I appreciate the fact that we're trying to be responsible as a group. We're trying to keep people safe. We're trying to do the right thing. So we'll continue to do that, with trying to also make sure that we give our kids and families the best opportunities we can.
Awesome.
So that's all I have for a financial update. I'm going to update all of that, and then I'll have Rebecca email a draft of this out for everyone just to look it over, and they can also see where the budget performed last year as well, in case there are any questions. Just for full disclosure, so that everyone can see where their numbers are and where the money came in. I'm sure, Amy, you can comment and give me some good feedback on that.
I will.
Thank you.
Let me stop sharing my screen. Thank you, Amy, on that. All right. Moving along. So I had on here Stop and Shop toy donations request. Mr. Barrett, if you remember, we used to get donations from Stop and Shop in the past. That was something that you had to contact them for. I know Rose and I have reached out to them, and they wouldn't even talk to us about that, because that's under you as the principal. So I just wanted to remind you about that.
So we have been getting donations from a number of stores and partners in town. A lot of them are opting not to give or donate things, but gift cards. And so what we've been trying to do as a district, and then specifically as a school, so our school social worker, Mrs. Costa, has taken on the role of trying to reach out to families that may have needs, or families that we think could use a little help, in trying to make those matches. So we have been doing that, and we're trying to do it in a much more systemic way through Mrs. Costa, so to make sure that we're not leaving anyone out, or make sure that we're not necessarily maybe giving multiple things to a family and then missing another family. So we have actually, through Mrs. Fort and myself, gotten donations, I believe, not just from Stop and Shop, but Target as well.
Okay, awesome. And then I wanted to remind you that we were able to get those free toy donations from Meme's Mission, that I want to coordinate the drop off with you for whichever students that you want those for.
If you give me a little heads up too, I will. I'll make sure to touch base with Mrs. Costa, and so I can look at her list and see who's already gotten certain things, and that way we can make sure they get to the right families.
Awesome, perfect,
terrific. Thank you so much for being thoughtful.
Now, the beam raising ceremony. I know last month you brought this up as a great idea for the school to take part in, which I think is an awesome idea. Rose and I have looked up a couple of YouTube videos of schools in the past, not necessarily in Smithfield, but other places, businesses, and this is a big to-do, getting that last beam in place. There's a whole ceremony that goes with it. There's a couple parts that needs to be, with the tree, with the flag, and there's meaning behind the whole ceremony. I just wanted to talk to you and get an update from you on, do you know when the construction people are looking to do this? Because
I don't.
I was off their timing.
Right. So right now, they just finished the foundation. So they finished the foundation. I believe it was last Friday. It was definitely last week. So you may have noticed scaffolding has gone up. There is no structural steel that's been installed yet, but that'll be going up. So I don't have a date. My thought last month was to sort of put it on the radar screen so we could start gathering ideas. So I think that it's great that you've looked at some YouTube videos already and gotten some ideas. I know McCabe, they did something really nice, and so we can build on what they've done. I think it's really important to involve students, but I think it's also important to involve PTA and families, because this is a community asset. It's not just, about the students in the building now. The challenge will be, what is the weather going to be like when this is finally ready? Is it going to be January and February? So in terms of what we can do outside and what's comfortable and not comfortable, when McCabe did, it was much warmer, but I'm sure we can figure some things out.
So my only other question for you to inquire is, what is the color of the beam? Because I've seen different beams. Mm-hmm. So do they have a blue beam? Is there a gray beam? Because then we need to coordinate with, are we going to use Sharpies? Are we going to use paint? What are the students going to write their names on? Mm-hmm. We're also going to talk to J&R to see if we can get a banner made to hang underneath that as that gets raised. And then obviously we want to have Roy the raccoon there, whether that's one of us or our former student mascot making an appearance. So just, food for thought for everybody. And any other ideas of what we should do would be greatly appreciated as well. I think I just looked at the pictures of what McCabe did, but it looked like they had someone sing the national anthem. Is that correct? Or
I believe they may have had a student, but what we could do too is, so as families, I think we had our specialists on rotation this year. So specialists weren't going between schools for the entire year. So we're starting music. We started this week, and Miss Shug, our new music teacher, will be in school. So we could ask her for some ideas as well. She may have, the Star Spangled Banner is really difficult for children, never mind adults, to sing. So there may be more appropriate song for kids.
Perfect.
My only question was, as far as the Valley Breeze, do you want me to personally reach out to them and coordinate once we have a drop, like a hard date? And would we pre-position the beam to be outdoors? So all children, including, we're doing virtual, but all children can scribble on the beam. And then it was if audio, if we couldn't sing, could we also have our audiovisual speakers that are part of the school to blast some music while the kids sing with?
We definitely could do all of those things. If we're still in distance learning, what we might have to do is do something like we did with the 5th graders last year and have them rotate. So maybe set up appointments for kids to come and sign over a period of time so they're not commingling, but I can be there taking pictures. We can absolutely, I think reaching out to the Valley Breeze is crucially important to get coverage for Old County Road. So when I know a date, I will definitely share it with you so we can try and work those things out. And I think that if we're able to be in person, some of the things you talked about would be a lot easier to pull off. If we're not in person, we might have to be a little more creative, but I still think we can make something happen.
Awesome. Any questions on the beam raising ceremony?
My understanding is also, depending on the structure of the school, I know McCabe is doing this. Our school structure is different, so we may not have this, but they're also doing a wooden joist ceremony. So not as momentous as a steel beam, but they're doing that, I think, for the back of their building. We're not having the same type of addition, so we may not have those same types of joists, those triangular joists.
Gotcha. All right, moving along to, let me pull up my agenda again, to the fundraisers committee updates. So Dave and I took on the Cherrydale fundraiser, which I mentioned earlier. So I just pulled up the website real quick, the back of this house sales. So online sales for our fall fundraiser, total sales was $3,476. Our projected Old County Road online profit was $1,535. So that's coming back to the school for $1,535. So we had, let's see here, around 25-ish students registered and actually bought items off of there. Now, Amy, one of the things that we were coordinating, Amy Ricketson, excuse me, was to give students gift cards, correct? You had a couple of Dave & Buster gift cards that we were going to use. Just want to find out how many gift cards in total we have from previous fundraisers that we can use to give out to students.
We could do one per grade.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
We have enough for one per grade.
So what I will do then with Dave, we'll go through this list, and it breaks it down by teacher name so I can easily identify what grade they're in. And then Mr. Barrett, I can provide you with the name and the gift cards. That way that can be passed out to the students either in person or virtually. That works for
Okay,
you?
terrific. Yeah, if we were able to arrange it before next Friday, we could do it in person, and if not, we'll do it virtually.
Yeah, I can easily have that for you by the end of this week.
I can deliver those during walking club.
Awesome. So that was a very successful fundraiser. Dave, I want to thank you. I know you were critical in setting that up. Your buddy from high school actually worked for Chairdale, and he was a pleasure to work with and made this process very smooth. So,
my pleasure.
Do you think we can advertise, at least on our PTA page, like a thank you out to them supporting our school, just because it is a small business, and we do want to make sure we recognize, especially during this time, our small business people that are supporting us?
yeah, absolutely. We can easily do that. And I think for being a pure online event, making $1,500 kickback to us is a great, easy thing to do. So I think this is absolutely the way to go. I know in the past, us having to figure out who gets what pie and be there and have that deep freezer set up, that was not a lot of fun. So this was very easy. So moving on, I know, Rose, you want to talk about box tops.
Well, I think box tops are what they are, as like we said last month. Don't expect too much coming back. They should expect a check sometime this month for the last quarter. I think it's around $200-ish. Other fundraising things, obviously we got out the November 10th. Everyone received their spirit gear, so 100% got back. It was slightly delayed due to COVID, but you heard raving reviews on the hometown fundraiser, so that was a success. Currently, we have the healthy, the winter wellness fundraiser that's going on now till the 18th, as well as the kid holiday store that just shut down on December 6th. So that was the give back, less than $5 for the kids, all virtual. And then currently we have running again for the 5th grade is the Cellos Clam Raiser. Cellos was gracious enough. Usually in the past they give us one day. Instead they gave us the whole week. There is a digital coupon, but I have had, I personally got an email saying that given the circumstances and delaying getting the tickets from them, that they'll accept the online Facebook ticket. So as long as you show it, they will honor it. So that's going on till the rest of the week. So please support the 5th grade. They're behind the 8 ball as far as fundraising, but they could appreciate everyone's support. They also have 2 additional ones that are being drummed up currently, but I'll let the 5th grade committee speak on that behalf of what's coming down the chute on that. And finally, I'm going to give them free reign as far as additional fundraising because they need to make their cash. So all I have in the future is in February 22nd to March 7th, I have a tentative book fair. Usually we do 2, but we're just going to do 1 this year, and 100% virtual. And that will be the usual, just more books, all online. And if I could throw a additional virtual, or not virtual, but tentative, I have the Easter egg hunt. It's outdoor. We don't know if we can just yet. I have the eggs. I just need to get fillers. It's very inexpensive, very easy. 1 hour go and be done. So that's the only thing that I'm planning for, but easily canceled. So that's all I have for now. Any questions?
Thank you. All right. I know Dorothy is online. I don't see Britton. So, Dorothy, if you'd like to present on fifth grade and what you guys have coming up, please.
Sure. We have a wellness fundraiser going on. Blakely is pushing that along, which has been great. So if you have seen maybe on the OCRS PTA Facebook, there's a link to it, and there's a party number that you enter in, and we get 30% of all the sales that go through it. That's super exciting. We do have a project coming up that I do need to ask a question about. We have Flex Days coming up on December 14th, and the fifth grade would like to do a special thing for their class where we're getting kits donated from Home Depot. And it's usually something to make like a pencil holder or a little desk thing. We're wondering if we can distribute that through the school. So is that possible to distribute for fifth grade?
Oh, we absolutely could do that.
Okay.
So, for in-person families, obviously, like if you drop them off, we can easily distribute those. And what we could do for anybody who's not in person, we could have them in the office. People could come by. We'd bring them out to them. We could figure something else out as well. But yeah, we can totally do that.
All right, great. Stephanie Howell has been gracious enough to volunteer to pick those up on Friday.
Okay.
But let me find out what her timing is, because maybe she can drop it off Friday morning, so you guys can do distribution on Friday morning. Figure that out. I know that's cutting it close. Also, we have two fundraisers also set up for the spring. One is the return of Silver Graphics, which is our big art show fundraiser from a couple of years ago. We're going to do it where we send out cardstock kits to everyone, and they're going to do their artwork and send it back in, and we can basically back to graphic. We can purchase his artwork on bills and bags and mouse pad holders and whatever your little heart desires through a website. And they'll ship it directly there. A second one that we're also doing is mixed bag, which apparently it was really successful 2 years ago. So we're bringing that back again as well for the spring. We're still sussing out what our goal plans are for the fifth grade. We know that we want to do the yearbook. We know we want to get them their t-shirts. There are a couple other things that everybody has in mind. We just need to settle on that. My ballpark right now is probably $2,000, hoping to have at least one field day type event, whether it's at the grounds or maybe if we're allowed to in the spring and everyone gets vaccinated and everything, we can go somewhere kind of cool. And we bounced around a couple of ideas if we could do that, like Sturbridge Village, because it's outside, Roger Williams Park. But if not, we can have ninja courses come to a place, whether it's Deerfield or maybe the school grounds, to have an outside event. But we're trying to do as much as we can for this fifth grade class, and hopefully, we'll get to do something fun.
Thank you so much for all of your work. I know this has been a real challenge. What John and I had talked about, because the weekends or the weekly update has so much in it for families, resending out PTA information every Wednesday. So my plan was, Dorothy, if it works for you, to send out that information about the wellness and cellos fundraisers again tomorrow, just to make sure that we've sent it out a couple times, but just keeping on people's radar.
Absolutely, please.
Okay. Very good.
And we do have a standing meeting. The Zoom information is in the fifth grade class Facebook page every Monday at 7 p.m. It's the same Zoom connection. I'm happy to share that with you if you don't have it. It'd be great if we could stick that in the newsletter too.
Terrific. I think I sent it out to just fifth grade families.
Yep.
But I can absolutely do that again. Let me put that on my note as well.
I believe Britton also reached out to all the fifth grade families in the email list. We'll probably do that again as well and put that.
Oh, terrific.
And do a reminder as well.
Excellent.
We'll get them in somehow.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thanks.
I know it's hard and you're doing a great job. So
Oh,
appreciate
thanks.
everything you're doing.
Britain's been a great partner, so, and everybody else has been super willing to like give their time and, we're all in this together.
And luckily, Britain is our vaccination contact, right? So we've got an in.
That we do.
Any PPE needs, she's your person for that. That's correct. All right, Mr. Barrett, it is your turn for your principal's report.
Thank you very much. So obviously, I think the big thing that's happening right now is what was decided last night at school committee. And I sent out a very, very brief message this morning just to let families know what the decision was, because there aren't a lot of details. But I also know that there were a lot of rumors already swelling online, and I wanted to make sure that people had the information. So just to make sure that everybody is on the same page with what was decided last night at school committee, the school committee decided that all of the Smithfield schools are going to make the switch to distance learning through the holiday break. They did not decide on an end date for the distance learning. So what the school committee and the superintendent are thinking of doing is during the break, reevaluating and then deciding, okay, when we come back, quote unquote, from the holiday break, will it be in person? Will it still be distance learning? Will it be another type of setup where maybe there are some high need students in person and everyone else is distance learning? So that has not been decided yet, but that is what the school committee and the superintendent are doing. One of the other things I think is important to know is the middle school is starting first. So today was actually the middle school's last day in person. So they're starting distance learning tomorrow. The high school is starting on Tuesday, the 15th. And the elementary schools, we're starting Monday, the 21st. So our last day in person will be Friday, the 18th. So as of right now, the only days that we know for sure we will be participating in distance learning are December 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So if there's additional information, when there's additional information to share, that's something that I'll get out to families. But I just wanted to clarify that's as much as we know at this point. In terms of material distribution, one of the advantages that we have this year is now that we know ahead of time when we're making the switch, we'll be able to send materials home with kids a little bit over a couple of days. So we don't need to have that crazy, even though it worked really well last year and it was well organized, we don't have to have that pickup of all the materials with families driving through. So that's something that all of the elementary principals are going to be working with teachers on. Okay, what are we going to send home on what day? So for example, Chromebooks will probably go home that Friday afternoon, Chromebooks and adapters, but a couple days ahead of time, we might send home math manipulatives. We might send home, science manipulatives or reading books and things like that. So again, I'll keep the community up to date on that, but I just wanted to let you know that that's something that we're already working on across the district and all the 4 elementary schools together. One of the things that I wanted to pose to the group, and I don't have an answer, but it's something that we've got a little bit of time to think about and maybe help each other figure out, is there are some families that the shift to distance learning is going to be really challenging because of either childcare or support. And I don't know if that's something that we want to even consider as a PTA. If there's a family that is really struggling with, I don't have anyone at home to help my child with distance learning, or, we've got 4 kids at home and that's a real struggle to have 4 kids online. I don't know if there are neighbors and families that would be willing to partner up or would feel even comfortable partnering up at this point. But I have already had families reach out to me saying, Mr. Barrett, this is going to be really difficult for us. So I'm thinking that trying to work as a community might be a way to support families that are really going to struggle with this.
I agree. There has to be some way that we can help each other out, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, do people feel comfortable enough in doing this right now, especially when we're on this extra lockdown period and Rhode Island cases are starting to spike more than across the country, according to numbers.
That's the thing too, is that, right now, per the governor, we're only allowed to have just our household. So
I
even if
know.
we wanted to even remotely spread an invitation to say, okay, I can take your kids, it's one of those things where our hands are tied.
And that's a question I need to talk to the superintendent more about, because literally this decision was just made last night. But I guess, and we may not be able to do it. And I certainly would never want anyone to do anything they're not comfortable with. I'm just trying to figure out a way to help families that they know it's going to be really difficult for them. So I don't have a great answer, Mrs. Regnier. I'm just wondering if, all of our minds together, we might come up with some creative solutions rather than just me trying to figure it out. I do think I'm going to have to get some guidance from the superintendent as well to see, what we might be able to do. But even some things like, I wonder if as a PTA, there are some families that don't have reliable internet access at home. Would we consider as a PTA possibly funding a couple of families, internet access for a month or two? Would we as a PTA, let's say they have internet access, but their Wi-Fi is awful. Would we be willing to do something like that? I don't know. Would we be willing as a PTA to maybe purchase some Wi-Fi access points that we loan out to families? And then we keep as a PTA to be able to, when families are in need, to be able to offer that solution. Because as a district, we've shared, like T-Mobile has some programs and Verizon has some programs. But sometimes those programs, even though they're low cost, they're not no cost. And I think there's some families that truly need no cost. So I agree with you, Mrs. Regnier. We may not be able to take kids in and supervise, but maybe there are some other things that we can do.
Mr. Barrett, I think that that's a great point. And one of the things that we've been able to do at the institution I work at is to purchase hotspots, particularly for families who do not have a consistent and reliable access for the duration of the term or semester. And we've been very successful in partnering with businesses who actually sort of donate a number of those in addition to what we're able to purchase. And then, of course, given the economies of scale, if there are other schools in the district that are interested in that, the price is actually considerably affordable for us to sort of bulk purchase. And then we loan them out that way. And then what we've decided to do recently is actually just let folks have it, or either over the summer, because of, again, the loss of learning that accumulates over non-instructional time. So I think that something that's a structural and systemic approach, I think, is the right thing to think through. The other piece that I was thinking about when we were talking about sort of how do we support folks who might have interruptions or a lack of sort of in-person care or caregivers is the option of maybe thinking about remote support. So while I've been able to work from home, I know I've been grateful to have the tutor check in with mine so that at least I can work a little for an hour. And I know that there are a number of us who are able to have a little bit more flexibility in our work schedules and are able to work from home. So that's one idea. But I also know, many of us are juggling other things. So my suggestion is actually not to have parents volunteer to be Zoom babysitters. But I think college students could make for terrific tutors. And there's some potential for great peer role modeling and support. And so, again, much like what I think was a really successful rollout by the district of the 1 hour with the paraprofessionals to sort of check in on kids on either subject areas or just to sort of check in and have somebody else from a point of accountability. I think that that's helpful. So I wonder if we can design an outreach approach to nearby institutions, whether it's Bryant or Brown or PC and others, to see if there are a number of their community engagement offices that were looking for tutors. I know we tried to do that last year with after school, and that was difficult because of transportation. But I think that the virtual actually lends itself beautifully for thinking about forming connections across institutions with our college age students and our elementary school age students. And I'd be happy to work with someone on developing an outreach approach to Brown.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's a terrific idea, Dr. Paloma. And I would love to talk to you. Maybe we can talk a little bit via email and even tomorrow about definitely about the hotspot idea, because I think all 6 schools would be interested in that. And I think your idea about involving local businesses is another really good idea, because as you also sort of alluded to in talking about that, it's not even just the hotspot, it's the service, the cost of the service. So if businesses are willing to say, you know what, I'll donate a month of service on the hotspot, even that is such a huge thing. I think that would be terrific. And I do love your idea about connecting families with college students. We may even have college students who are just, what do I do when this thing doesn't work? You know, I can't log into the Google Meet, or I can't make this happen. And, you know, mom is already working in a meeting, or dad is working in a meeting, or grandma is there someone else who can help with those things? So even that is a good idea. What I will say with when we make the switch to distance learning, it will be a different schedule. So for example, the kids who are doing virtual learning now, they meet, as Dr. Plummer was saying, an hour per day with a virtual learning tutor that the district provides. And they check in twice a week with their classroom teacher. When we move to distance learning, because all kids will be home, we're going to have an actual school day schedule for all kids. Will they be working live with their classroom teacher throughout the day? So there'll be less downtime. I think that parents won't have support. So that may also help with that as well. I saw Mrs. Ichiba had raised her hand.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not used to having headphones on now that all 2 of them, are home and very loud. But I just got excited at what Dr. Paloma was saying, because I think that's a huge challenge, at least for me, where I'm also working from home, but I'm fully engaged in virtual meetings all day long. So that's always a challenge, even, if we're quarantined or if we're home with a stuffy nose, where, I feel very guilty that Koji's, having to entertain himself in front of a TV, and then I can do his schoolwork with him before bed at like 7 o'clock at night. So as you were talking, I was getting excited over, if we have any older students that can do some peer tutoring, or any help. So where you were going with that, I think that's a really great idea. And I know a lot of other friends, even in just some of the other, local schools as well, have been voicing some of these as like some of our fears and concerns going with distance learning moving forward. So I like where you're going with that. If that's something that, we could look into more, that would be huge for, some of the parents that have the flexibility to work from home. But it's not always easy where we can step away. And I'm actively working until like 6 o'clock every night, where I can't step away because I'm in a video all day long myself.
I think we're also really fortunate too that because of our family partners like Dr. Paloma, and also with John, we have connections to Brown University. We have a connection to Johnson and Wales. We have Bryant University here in town, so we're able to try and take advantage of some of those resources. So I'm hopeful, because we do have a week and a half ahead of time to try and get some of these things in place, whereas last year we really had to scramble. I'm hoping that we'll be able to have things ready to go for people that need support right away. So, so Dr. Plummer, I'll reach out to you tomorrow to talk more about some of those ideas, and I'll also check with the other principals to see, one, if they'd be interested. I'm sure they will be, and they may also be thinking about similar things and will want to, sort of combine efforts.
Mr. Barrett, what if we also reach out to National Honor Society students in the high school?
Mm-hmm.
Just because they also need hours in order to continue with that National Honor Society. So
Right.
Especially during this time, if they're creating, whether they're working on positive relationships or appropriate talk over Zoom and just modeling good behavior, for those students that are having difficulty in classrooms, maybe they can be paired up with someone just to demonstrate what good Zoom relationships are, or should be talking in the chat, so it's not things that teachers are redirecting and utilizing that. I mean, I know teaching high school is difficult with appropriate or inappropriate chat conversations. So, and what if we reach out to Rhode Island College, or even Johnson & Wales, because they have the teaching program for anyone that would have been student teaching at this time that may not be. And I just feel like putting this or helping with part of teaching on their resume via Zoom is definitely a resume builder, especially to say they had experience.
Absolutely. I can tell you that when we were looking for teachers this year, that was absolutely something that we asked them. Did you have any experience teaching remotely distance? Because you're exactly right. That's not something that is easy just to pick up if you've never experienced it.
And I think, although Rick and URI are great places, I really am excited if we can get the Brown piece off and rolling, just because I feel like that also is like a goal for students to kind of like adhere to or set for themselves. Feel like I worked with a Brown student when I was in, and I feel like that's like a memorable experience. And I think that's amazing that we have that connection here. And even if it only amounts to a few or whatever, I think it's amazing if anyone gets to engage in that process. Just, I think it will be memorable, even though this is an awful situation.
Agreed. So all I would say to all of you is that if you have other ideas, if as you're talking to people, there's a lot of chat happening on Facebook now, as you would expect, and I'm sure you've seen it. And I'm trying to ignore a lot of the negative things, but I think that we can turn this into a positive and say, okay, let's see if we can figure out some creative solutions. Like just tonight, we've already come up with some really exciting ideas to try. So if we can sort of turn that energy, that anxiety into, okay, let's figure out how we can help each other. I would really like to try that, whether it's as a school or as a district. But, selfishly, I want to do it for our school. Does anybody have, and I know that I don't have many more details about what's going on, but while we have parents here, are there any other questions that I can try and answer? Or at least you ask the question and I can say, oh, that's not something we thought of. Let me bring that back to the teachers and the other principals. I don't mean to put anyone on the spot.
I don't have a question, but I just have a suggestion, just because I feel like when the kids go to quarantine, they don't have a lot of that socialization time because the teachers are trying to teach and kind of getting that piece in, and that maybe Fridays, or the way you're setting up the schedule, maybe a teacher assistant can have like lunchtime chat with the kids where they all log in, or like Mondays is kindergarten and Tuesdays is something. And because I know that you're looking for someone to kind of monitor it, and just so the kids can get their sillies out, although, their expectations can be there, but I do think that socialization that they missed might be less if they can have their own little chats and talking or whatever, or even to continue the same video watching that they were doing during lunchtime that they loved watching while on a Zoom. I know that Francesca comes home and talks about what they watched and what they talked about. And so even if it's just as, although it's more screen time, I think that social piece might be less if we have time for that. So
Mrs. Dislawyers actually did a terrific job of that last year every Friday. She did that, and she would invite guests to come in. Like I was a guest one week and other staff members, and it was a lot of fun for the kids. And so I think that's something that we want to make sure that all teachers are thinking about offering some sort of opportunity like that. It may be, there may be some things that fit better with younger grades and some things fit better with older grades. But I agree with that. Like one of the things selfishly that I have enjoyed is I've been doing lunch duty in Mrs. Chomka's class every day since the beginning of the year. And on some days, like Nia will join as part of a meet. And it's really nice to see Nia. We've had other kids join, and the kids love, even when they're eating with their masks off and they know that they can't talk for safety, they'll write messages to them on their whiteboards and hold them up in the meets. And it is amazing to see how creative they are. So I agree with you, Amy. That is something that we want to make sure we build into the schedule, whether it's snack time or lunchtime, and figure out a way to do that that allows kids just to be kids.
My other suggestion, if this goes longer, is to maybe do like a talent show. So every kid could do like a 30-second show of their talent. Like I know Koji likes to play the drums, he likes to play the guitar, and he has all these things he likes to talk about. But maybe if he knows that his video went out to, we're highlighting these 5 students that sent in their videos this week, and they watch it in morning meeting. So I don't know, just something so it's just a conversation they feel like they're recognized, or whatever they choose as their talent.
You know what's kind of funny, Amy, just on that? So we do like a morning meeting in my work every day where we all we either do a quote of the day or a brain teaser, but like the newest thing we've done lately is we do a water cooler, because a lot of us joined my team completely virtually, so I haven't even met any of these people in person. But we do a water cooler. That's our newest thing, where we just each share 5 things about ourselves. So that's been the newest thing. So it's kind of like the adult version of that. But we've just ended that. So the latest one was let's all share a skill about ourselves. So like I just shared, I can fold an origami crane. I can fold some major origami. But Koji has shared his drumming skills.
That was
but I
very
love that.
with the 5th grade last year.
Yeah.
We had some 5th graders as part of their end of the year video record themselves doing some skills. And it was a big hit, but I think like you're saying, making it more regular part of, if this is going to be extended for an amount of time, a regular part of the day. And I know, even though I felt incredibly silly doing it, me recording the silly songs, I would get kids sending videos back of them doing them. So like they were looking forward to those types of things with each other. So I agree. I think, well, that's something I think our school has gotten really good at. I think one of the things I'm most proud of as principal is bringing it's okay to have fun at school as long as we're still learning, right? We can have fun while we're learning. There's a big difference between just being silly for being silly sake, but having fun while we're learning and enjoying each other. And so I think that we're positioned to be able to bring that to this.
And not that I'm a big person about calling the Valley Breeze, but I think if we're doing these regular things, I feel like that would be something that should and could be highlighted, that, the social emotional awareness that we are bringing to the day-to-day is just as important as the learning. And I do feel like, the teachers and the staff at Old County should be recognized. I feel like a lot of other schools are super recognized. I don't necessarily feel that Old County always gets the spotlight that it deserves. So I just feel like maybe we just need to use the bragging rights to promote ourselves, to, show that we are, you are, your staff is, the students are all engaged and wanting to be here. And we're, breaking the mold and trying something new.
One of the things that's exciting this year is we have a lot of new faces. And so that might be a good role for our new school psychologist, Jen Stepsis, to be able to take the lead on that. Because to be perfectly honest with you, I hate talking about myself. I'm very uncomfortable and I don't like, it's just not something I'm good at. I hate calling the Valley Breeze and saying, hey, look at us, look at me. So I need to let someone else do that so that I don't feel embarrassed about it. So
I'll definitely call. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I know you'd love to embarrass all of us.
Well, I'm proud to have what my daughter is receiving as an education. And I feel like everyone else is always in the paper for things that they get to do. And not that I feel like we need paper recognition, but like, let's join the forces and show that we too are breaking the mold. And we too are, as parents, just as invested as everybody else is, because I think that's just as important. And I think then maybe we might even have more parents trying to join the forces. And if, we join together as that community piece, they're like, oh, I wish I had known, I would have done that. So I think that would kind of make things be more team building.
Sure. No, I agree. I think we do need to show off a little bit more. That's not something I'm good at. So I'll find someone who is good at that. So that was really, I just wanted to make sure that I brought up those topics in the principal's report because I know it's on everyone's mind. And I'm really glad that I did, because already I've got my sticky notes here on the side as I'm scribbling down some good ideas to start thinking about in the next week and a half. The only other thing I would say is, as families and parents, anytime if someone has a question, I'd much rather have people ask me than try and get it through Facebook, because we know that Facebook, it becomes a rumor of a rumor of a rumor of a rumor. I would so much rather people just ask me the question, and I will give them an honest answer. And if I don't know the answer, I'll also be honest and say, I don't know yet, but I'll find out. So as parents, I would encourage, as you talk to each other and you hear people say, don't be afraid to ask Mr. Barrett that. That's okay. You know, he wants you to ask. I'd rather do that than have sort of the tornado of information on Facebook.
Sounds good. All right. With that, if Mr. Barrett, you are done, this leads to our open forum. Are there any other questions or comments?
Hi, this is Beth Wordley. I'm Alexandra's mom, and I've been silently listening. Mr. Barrett, just to your point there on Facebook, I want to encourage everyone here, and then spread the word also, to try to be more kind on Facebook, and instead of feeding off of someone by arguing with them, focus on the good, focus on the positive. And I think that Mr. Barrett can do that, and that's great, but it doesn't sound the same as it does when it's coming from peers. And we've seen at my work, at least, the more that we have peers respond positively, it really can change the entire message and context of what we're reading online.
I'm also really afraid of, you know, I've seen a lot of the comments on the superintendent's post about what happened, you know, what the decision that was made last night at school committee meeting. And I've seen parents arguing with each other about, you know, who thinks virtual learning is a good thing, a bad thing. And I feel like sometimes parents are almost attacking each other, and that's definitely not going to help our kids. So I agree. You know, I think that would be something that we want to try, at least in our school community, address and make sure that we're trying to say, no, this is what we're doing to help each other, rather than, nope, you said this, I said this type of thing. I agree with you, Mrs. Worthley.
Excellent point. Is there anything else out there?
John, would this be a good time to just mention what we were thinking of doing for the staff? We
Yes.
sort of danced around a little bit. So I had reached out to the PTA executive board just because we haven't been able to do some of the things we normally do. And what I asked the PTA board if they would be interested in doing is purchasing boxed lunches for the staff one day. And obviously it can't be a surprise, because we'd have to get people to say what they'd want, and we have to be careful of food sensitivities and things like that. But I also wanted to, so on the 14th, on Monday, on Parent-Teacher Conference Day, the Flex Day, our custodians will be there, our secretary will be there, and our paraprofessionals will be there. I also think it's really important to celebrate them as well. And I thought it might be really nice on that day, because they're going to be the only ones for the most part in school that day, to also do that for them on that particular day. So I just wanted to say that's what we're planning. And then, I think it was Amy that said Friday the 18th might be a good day for the teachers. I agree completely about that, but I think Monday might be kind of fun for the secretary, the paraprofessionals, and custodians to get something that they weren't necessarily expecting, and a nice show of appreciation. Because, and I'm not just saying this because Mrs. Regnier is right in front of me on the screen, but we have an amazing daytime custodian in Mr. Regnier. He's terrific. And one of the things I love about having him in our school is that all of the kids call him Mr. Gary. All of the kids say hi to him. He's like he's an important part of our school. I tried to get a picture of him the other day. He was kneeling down, tying a kid's shoe in the hallway. Like, that's not what people would expect a school custodian doing, but that's what happens in our school. And he did it so fast, I couldn't get the picture. And he was like, oh, don't take my picture. But I said, no, I want people to see that this is, you know, what the kids think of you. They think of you just another grown-up to help them. And so I really want to make sure we show appreciation, not just for Mr. Gary, but also Mrs. Diaz, Mrs. Gall, who's incredible, Mrs. Fortin, and Mrs. Lemar, to our other paraprofessionals. So anyway, I thought maybe this would be a good time to just say this is what we're planning.
No, I think it's a great idea. And Rebecca brought up the idea about possibly shopping local for the food.
I agree. Good idea.
100% fully support. But I think you mentioned it earlier. The trick is getting something that is boxed and safe for everybody. So if we can meet those requirements while still getting from a local vendor, I'm 100% behind that effort. So if there's any
I'm
ideas,
open to ideas. If people want to send me ideas via email, that is not my expertise.
So Amy, oh, go ahead, Amy.
Nope,
No, I
go.
was just going to say you were actually going to call Breeze Deli, I think, today.
Yes.
Because I know that they also cater. So they may actually be able to do something like that. And I think she said she was going to give them a call.
Okay, great.
So I did call them. I didn't have much to offer them except for that I knew that we had a vegetarian on staff, a staff with dairy issues, just from last year's ordering, and then knowledge of parents that have students in new teachers' classrooms that know their needs. So I kind of brought up some of those things, and they said that they could accommodate. They just needed more details. So I said it needs to be boxed, it needs to be labeled, it needs teacher's name on it. So it was like once it's brought in, it's put on, it's delivered, you know, by one person, so on and so forth. So, so they said that they would be able to accommodate. They appreciated that we thought of them, but I haven't firmed anything up until I've spoken to teachers or at least have knowledge of dietary needs. That's my biggest concern.
So what I'll do, it seems like we're in agreement that we'd like to do this for the staff and the teachers. I will send an email out asking staff to let me know if they have specific dietary needs or sensitivities or requirements, and then I'll have that information. Mrs. Fort may also have some of that information, our school nurse, but I'll email just to get that. Now, it'll let staff know that we're thinking about doing something like this, but I think in this case, it's okay. It's, you know, giving them a heads up is not the worst thing in the world.
I mean, the other thing that I thought of, I guess a parent has sent a coffee truck to the school.
They did that in the beginning of the year, and it was wonderful and a lot of fun. I don't think we could do that now in the current environment.
Okay.
It was the second or third week of school, and I did ask Dr. Paolucci for permission. I said, you know, we have a parent who offered this. Would it be okay? And she did say yes at that time. It'd be okay. I'm not sure she would feel the same way. There were some stipulations, like the snacks were prepackaged and sealed. So like no one was, you know, and there was a selection of just, I think, 3 or 4 different beverages, so they can make sure that like those didn't get cross-contaminated and things like that. But I think the idea of box lunches or box meals of some sort, I think we could absolutely do. I would love to do the coffee truck idea again another time when things calm down, because that was a lot of fun and the staff really, really appreciated it. And I went around and covered classes, so they also just loved the fact that they got to stick the kids with me while they went and had a cup of coffee.
the other option, if things calm down a little, is we can talk to local food trucks too and try and get them to come out. Probably, you know, early springtime frame,
yeah.
But that's always a possibility.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you for doing that for the staff. I really appreciate it. And I know the staff will appreciate it as well, because they have been, and I'm not just saying this because I'm their principal, but they've been working extraordinarily hard and they've done a terrific job. And we've had probably the fewest amount of staff absences, and it's all because they're so committed to our kids. So I think it would be wonderful to do something for them before we have to shift to distance learning.
Great. So before we end the meeting, I just want to put it out there that we're looking at around January 5th for our next PTA meeting. I know we're going to get into the holiday season and things are going to get forgotten, so I just want to put that out there. And we'll also post that on our Facebook page and Mr. Barrett's weekly email updates. So want to put that in your ear as of this moment.
Okay.
Before I ask for motion to close, are there any last comments, questions, concerns? Checking the chat. Nothing in the chat.
Chat was quiet tonight.
It was. But I want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight. I think this was a very, very productive meeting. We got the bylaws voted in, and we made some good headway on everything else. So that is all I have for you folks. So anyone wants to make a motion to end the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Motion has been made at 8:20. Is there a second?
Yes,
I second.
Multiple people have seconded. With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week. I appreciate
You too.
coming out.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Take care.